I commuted to Sacramento and San Francisco, and I cried every time I drove in my car. I was a single mom of 2 kids, but I was like, oh, I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. I was like, really?
Yeah.
I'm not going to fail. I'm doing this. Mm-hmm. This is what I want. It's now me time. And I've been spent too much time trying to appease others. There were different careers I had, and I always was put down, like, because you're still not doing it right. You're not a submissive wife. You're not in the role we want you to be in.
Yeah.
And then I finally was like, you're never going to be.
Hello, beautiful people. Yes, I am talking to you. Are you ready to feel confident AF, free from the expectations and opinions of others, and create ultimate self-trust in who you are, what you say, and how you show up in every part of your life? If you answered a hell yes, I am, I guarantee this episode will empower you to be 100% yourself, 100% of the time, no shame or guilt needed. It's time for you to strut your stuff, express yourself with freedom, and fully embrace every freaking fabulous part of you. Let's dive in. Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome to another episode of Road to Radical Visibility. My name is Rachel Freeman Sowers, also known as the Breakthrough Bitch, because I am passionate about helping people in the LGBTQ plus and female communities break free from the social constructs, opinions, and beliefs that have been holding them back from being themselves 100% of the time without shame or guilt. And I cannot wait for you to meet my guest today. As you can see, she is already on screen, and boy, do we have an episode for you. I'm excited. So, yes, this is how the whole episode is going to go. And if you're listening to the podcast, I swear you should go check out the video. All right. So my guest today is Dana Anderson, and it's so interesting how people resurface in your life at just the right time. I'm going to introduce her in just a second, but Dana and I actually went to grade school and junior high together. OMG, so long ago. And we reconnected over social media. And I have to tell you, for those of you who think that tech is something that's awful and social media is something that is just something you don't like, I would love for you to entertain the fact that it can bring these types of people back into your life and the connections right at the same time. Okay, so let me introduce her. I've got a bio here. So Dana Anderson is a forensic psychologist and a true crime expert. As a court-appointed expert, she provides psychological evaluations of the most dangerous, violent criminals in cases all over the U.S. She's been featured on shows like Crime Door and an investigative discovery crime series launching in January. When I asked her what she loves, this is what she said. Listen up. She loves everything gold and relaxing in her hot tub. Yes, yes, yes to all that. Welcome to the show, Dana. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited about everything.
Yes.
So
much has happened since high school.
For reals. Is no joking. And we're going to dive into that because I think it's interesting and also inspiring to the listeners to see how lives change radically when we decide to become radically visible, right? So the first question I always ask everybody, what does radical visibility mean to you?
You know, I feel like so much of things that I experience and who I am, I've kept inside. Mm-hmm. And you kind of filter yourself for everyone. And there's a lot of parts of yourself or moving pieces that you don't want other people to see because you're just embarrassed or ashamed. Mm-hmm. And I broke up with the old version of me, mm-hmm. and I'm working on becoming more authentic and being more visible. Mm-hmm. With just being vulnerable and real and having conversations.
Well, and you started that process with yourself, right? I mean, it all starts with ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I've deleted the old version of me. And I'm getting a quantum upgrade.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just old parts of me that don't serve me anymore. And I think it's important to change as needed. And at this point in my life, I should know who I am, what I stand for, what I like, where my moral compass is. And I'm no longer afraid about being myself, putting myself out there, because you don't have to like me. You don't have to love everything about me. But I sort of just like myself better and better the more authentic I'm becoming. And just, it's like, I like myself more and more when I start pursuing hard and difficult goals and achieve them. Then I realize, you know, how valuable I can be. And I used to doubt myself so much. Well, just be like, I'm not going to try it because I probably won't, you know, I'm going to fail. Like, I've failed so much. And I've gotten, you know, I've had so much rejection. I remember going to different job interviews and they're like, not going to hire me. I remember going to the courthouse so long ago. It's probably like 15 years ago. And I wanted to like work in the criminal division so I could just even be exposed to that. They totally didn't hire me. And I just thought, I don't even want this anymore. Like, I'm going to go like be the forensic psychologist that comes in and turns in reports here.
Right. So it's kind of like just going straight to the top, right? And
I was like, yeah.
So it's like, I want to be really clear for the audience. You and I were not raised to be proud of ourselves. You and I were not raised in an environment that empowered us to be independent. We weren't raised in an environment to where we were taught to have our own thoughts. And so this journey that you've taken to radical visibility has been one that really requires a lot of risk taking and honestly faith, and not in a religious faith way, but a faith in yourself and a faith in the path that's coming before you. I mean, for you to say like, I'm not going to be the person that comes and works here. I'm going to be the person that turns in the reports here. I mean, you're like, this is what I want. And this is what I'm going for, right? I'm going to be the expert. This is what I want. I mean, that realization for you, how did that free you?
I'm just no longer a prisoner of self-doubt.
That's huge. So I just want to reiterate that, you know, no longer a prisoner of self-doubt. It's one of the number one things people struggle with, that I struggled with, when we're taught how we're supposed to be, and honestly taught by other people's standards and expectations and beliefs about who we are. And our identity is given to us. Because, well, let me just ask you, instead of making an assumption, you haven't always wanted to be a forensic psychologist, have you?
Yeah, I mean, when I was in high school, I had no idea what was going on in the world. And I was so naive. I went to a private school for 12 years. And, you know, there's 10 people in my family. We lived in a trailer in Happy Valley, you know, very patriarchal, very religious, you know, very controlling. Kind of had a farm. I think my senior year in high school, my parents had like emus. And that was like a thing at the time to make money.
It was
and
a thing.
At the time, it's not a thing anymore. I remember we had to like write our goals and turn it into the teacher. And I wrote the stupidest paper. It was about like how I was going to invest in emus.
Well, maybe
like
actually
the dumbest paper.
It probably wasn't. It's like entrepreneurial spirit, right? I think those of us that are trying to break out of things, even in our younger years, we often can become entrepreneurs because you are an entrepreneur. You don't work for someone. You run your own forensic psychologist business, right?
Yes. Yes.
So that very well could have been the seed that's planted of like, hey, this is how I can make some money, and that like how it goes. I think too, like that's, you know, when we lived, you know, both of our families lived in pretty extreme poverty. And that's when you start saying, how am I going to make my own money? How am I going to do the thing that I need to do to get what I want, right?
Yeah, and I know people always talk about their past and their journey, but it's like, it is so important to talk about. I remember we grew up, my mom would go down and get the brown bag. It was like Brown Bag Wednesday. And it's like, you got a brown paper bag filled with government issued cheese, government issued canned pork, and it's just this giant box. We were resourceful. We were creative. Like my mom would go get, it's like leftover food they were going to throw out. Old donuts, old expired cereal, stuff like that. And we didn't have a lot. And you really start to think, how am I going to take care of myself?
Yes.
You know, do I want to be growing up looking forward to Brown Bag Wednesday?
Well, for reals. And, you know, if that happens, okay, well, that's a resource that you learned. But I remember the first time I spent the night at your guys' house, at your house.
You did?
Yes, I remember that.
Oh,
and then
my God.
that's the very first time I ever had grits. I clearly remember that. Your mom was like cooking it, and your sister was like, hey, okay. And so it's just like, okay, you eat it. And then, you know, like, so I think growing up around that, it's important to acknowledge it, right? It's important to say that this was my experiences, but it doesn't have to continue to be the thing once you get older and say, I want to start having my own mind about how I live my life, how I interact in the world. I clearly remember, and I'd love to hear about it for you too, but I clearly remember the time that I said, I'm no longer buying into, for me, all of the religious bullshit that I was told that makes me worthy. I mean, there was a moment in time when I was 24, I came out and I'm like, I'm not going to believe that I'm going to hell. I'm not going to believe that I'm a bad person. I'm not going to believe that I have to be like that to be happy. That was a momentous moment for me. When was that moment for you?
That's kind of funny. So I have to tell you that my mom told me recently as a child that I was always standing up on the inside. And she said, even when she'd tell me to sit down in the car, because we had like no seatbelts, there was like 6 of us in the back seat. So I was probably standing because there's no room. I was always sitting on someone's lap.
Yeah.
There was 6 of us in the back seat. Times have changed. But she said, would she tell me to do something? It's like I would do it. And I was just standing up on the inside. So I always joke about that now. So there was this little rebellious spirit, this little bit of spark, this little bit of opposition. And you know what? I'm just not even mad about it. Like, I'm glad I have that little, I'm glad about that because it served me well. So my parents were very strict, controlling. So we actually had to get up sometimes. We had to line up and say, yes, sir, father, sir. And like push-ups, sit-ups, jumping jacks, mountain climbers, run laps, like Bible study, like all this stuff. And it was very militant. And I would get in trouble for trying to tell jokes at the table. And then I'd get kicked out and had to not eat, stand on the porch. But I was always like still trying to be funny out there on the porch. Just like, I was just like, whatever was happening, you're not going to break my spirit. And I remember getting in trouble and he'd say, well, go get your running shoes on. And I was like, happy to.
Well, I
said, I need the exercise anyway. What are you going to do? And he's like, well, I'm going to go sit in my Jeep and like watch you out in the dark while I ran laps. And it's like my last lap. I'm just like, just being so, because I was like, I'll do it. I disagree. I don't respect this process. So I think it's good to question authority. You should. And, you know, he's still trying to have these Bible studies where you can't, he doesn't want you to have an opinion. He just wants to, he
just wants to preach it out to people.
Yeah. But I no longer have to be a part of that. I know what I believe now and I know where I'm at. But yeah, I was always a little bit lippy.
Well, and I think that really is the truest parts of us that know that are trying to stand up, you know, even if it is standing up on the inside, and about knowing, like, you know, there's so many things I've been told in my life, like better seen than heard, or being submissive to the husband or whatever. And everything inside of me was like, no, that doesn't make sense. Like all of those things that were like, no, it's not ringing, I think is really the truest self saying like, okay, remember who we are. Remember this, right? And so through all this journey, again, we've talked about like how you've kind of gotten to this point. You've decided then to become a forensic psychologist, work with some of the most dangerous and interesting, violent cases ever. Right. And it's interesting how I went into being LMFT, right, and working with children in the foster care and all this stuff and hearing all of that, you doing this. And what caused you then to say, I am stepping into this role. I am good enough. This is my path. When was the moment you decided, this is what I'm doing? I'm going for it?
It's been a journey. Finally, after high school, I knew I wanted to get into investigative work, police work, some position where I could help intervene crimes. And that stemmed from my parents having domestic violence disputes and pulling out a gun or physically assaulting each other. And growing up, I felt frozen and not knowing how to respond. And I felt like if I had the answers, I could be more useful. And I did. I became at a young age. I would intervene all the time. And then I got good at it. I got better at it. And I would tell them what to stop. So I felt like my purpose somehow became, I wanted to prevent crimes from happening. I was conflicted because my parents really wanted me to be like, just get married, have babies, and go to church. And they were, you know, going to disown me if I didn't sort of follow that path. So it's really hard for me. After I got divorced, I got a letter from a family member that said they were going to turn me over to the hands of Satan, and they couldn't like eat or drink with me. And I was no longer allowed because of my sin. And they sent that on Christmas Eve. I showed up at the house with gifts for everyone, and I got turned away because they said I was a sinner. And I cried all the way home. And then it was like, I can't even impress these people anyway. Never going to get it right. I don't even, I need to go find myself.
Right.
I was like, this is what I want to do. And it always was condemned. Like, if you choose psychology, we don't agree with that. That's not, you're saying man has the answers, not God, or something like that. And my dad, I remember when I was getting my master's degree, he actually came over to my house and he was mocking me. He's like, who do you think you are? You're gonna, just law enforcement's a waste of time. Like, this is just a waste of your energy and time. And I remember really thinking about it. And I'm like, I thought, what could be the thing that could piss him off the most? I was like, oh, you know what? I'm getting a doctorate degree now. And I ain't telling no one about it because it's for me. And I'm just going to go get one. Don't worry about what I'm doing. I'm going to do it. I'm not just going to be good. I'm going to be real good. I'll be the best. And I'm going to go do it. And this is for me. I like this. This is interesting. This is for me. I went at a time when no one knew what forensic psychology was. It wasn't popular. I wanted to do it. And nobody was supporting me. Nobody cared. I didn't tell my family when I enrolled. And it was just something I needed to do for me. And it was an arduous process because it took over the course of 15 years. And I commuted to Sacramento and San Francisco, and I cried every time I drove in my car. I was a single mom with 2 kids, but I was like, oh, I'm doing it. I was like, really?
Yeah.
I'm not going to fail. I'm doing this. This is what I want. It's now me time. And I've been spent too much time trying to appease others. There were different careers I had, and I always was put down, like, because you're still not doing it right. You're not the submissive wife. You're not in the role we want you to be in. Yeah. And then I finally was like, you're never going to be. So, like, yeah, I don't need their approval. So, and then now, I love what I do, and I find it exciting and interesting, and it's never dull for me. And I'm so glad I just broke up with the expectations of other people.
That's huge.
And I
it's
feel
huge
like
for so many people.
I don't think I would have liked myself if I would have been tried to follow what they want. I wouldn't have been authentic. I would have probably had a personality disorder. It's like you're just like all tucked in and repressed and trying to be something that you don't like or you don't even want to be, or just to get their approval. And they really didn't approve this. So that's okay. I do not need their approval.
And that's a huge step.
And belonging isn't negotiated by other people.
I think that's one of I was speaking yesterday to a group of people, and one of the things when you want to become radically visible is you having the courage to listen to yourself, to the truest self, the courage to release. Right? Release the things that are no longer serving you, breaking up with other people's expectations and their opinions about, life. And it's not so much that you don't care, but those things no longer are more important than the way you want to be living your life and interacting. Right. And I think you and I reconnected at about the time that you were almost done with your doctorate. I think that's when I was like, oh my gosh, it's Dana Anderson, right? So now the next level has come for you. And it is about, I'm going to be this expert. I'm working towards this expert. I've got what I needed. And now you're stepping into that role. I mean, for high profile cases, for TV shows, for community. I mean, you step into this role in our own community and helping people. What is that like for you, putting yourself out there like that?
Well, I'm excited. Thinking back to junior high and high school, all the years of school, I was deathly shy. So shy.
She was.
I was afraid to take my jacket off because it might rustle or someone might notice me. Like, I was shy. I almost was mute. I was just very shy. So one of my goals before high school was to, like, take a drama class or, you know, recite poems in front of the class or just break my fear. That was my number one fear, public speaking. And I told myself, you need to overcome that fear. Like, you need help. You're going to have to start somewhere. So it's been a long journey, and I'm glad I confronted my fear. I am putting myself out there, but it's hard to do. It's hard to do because you're always going to have people just be jerks and say things or whatever. But you know what? I just don't care anymore. And this is my only life. This is me. Like, make the best of it. And I have interesting things to share. I have fascinating stories. I have information that I want to talk about. And I have to put myself out there so I can share this information, valuable information. I bring value.
So I think that's a huge realization, is a lot of people don't feel like, even when they know they have value, they're not sure it's valuable to the world. And the fact of the matter is that you and I aren't offering this value to be accepted by the world. We're offering the value for people to take it and grow from it and use it, right? So it's not where we're waiting for people to reject us. Now's the time, like, no, this is out there. If it helps you, great. If not, keep scrolling, keep walking, keep doing whatever. And realizing that you do have something valuable and that it is your life. I mean, I say that all the time, right? So those are huge things. So what would you tell someone in the last couple minutes that we have here? What would you say to someone who says, I want to more of that. I want to be like that. I want to know I add value. I want to be confident in that. What would you tell them?
Get to know yourself. Sometimes I ask people when I do psych evals, like, how would you describe yourself in 3 words? And a lot of times when people see me, they're so depressed or so off track, they cannot answer that question. They say, I don't know. And like minutes pass and they still can't find themselves. They can't describe themselves. You want to figure out who you are. Like, I'm sassy. Or I'm zesty. Or
Yeah.
I'm fun. Like, know yourself and get to know your good traits. Get to know your bad traits too, your weaknesses, your vulnerability. Understand more about why you have those traits and know how to leverage them. So get to know yourself, look inside yourself. I love spending alone time with myself and being with myself. Like, get to know yourself and love yourself and all the parts of you. Like, there's lots of parts of me that aren't perfect. I'm still working on stuff. I'm working on it every day. Every day I'm getting like 1% better. But I think a lot of people just lost their identity and are like so influenced by things around them that it guides them each day and they lose their way. I was having dinner the other night with someone and I said, what do you want to be? And she's like, well, I would like to do all this like what you do. And she's like, yeah, but I can't. And I'm like, do it. No, do it. Don't say you can't do it. Like, try. Don't. If you never try, what if I never tried? If you're passionate about something, go do it, please. Because that's like where the joy comes from.
Yeah.
That makes me happy that I'm doing something that I chose. Someone else didn't choose it for me.
Well, and I think you have a really good point. Our identity when we're younger I would say up until 25 and even not a little bit more continues to influence our decisions and how we act and how we interact in the world and how we feel and think about ourselves. So we're given this identity, and it really is about the same thing that you did. You're uncovering the truest self and saying, hey, no, I have this thing to offer. I want to live my life in this way. I want to do this thing. And when you create this sacred commitment to the self to say, no, this is my one life. This is the life that I'm here to live right now. And I'm doing that. That is when you begin to experience your life like, holy shit, that I'm doing the thing I wanted to do. I'm here. I'm arriving every day. And that 1% that you're experiencing is this continuous level up. It doesn't always have to be like 180 gain or 100% gain. It's just like, just this one step after the next, living my life in the way that I want to. So, all right, we're at the end, and I want to thank you so much for helping inspire anyone who's going to listen to this podcast or watch the show. Thank you for continuing to serve our community with your gifts and beyond. And thanks for just showing up as you and reaching out to me all those years ago now to be like, hey, I'm over here, and that we could reconnect. So it's been such an honor, and I can't wait to see where both of us go in this life and who we can positively impact. So I'm going to end the show there. I'll end this video like I end every single video. Please make sure to stay true to yourself, be kind to others, and always, always, always honor the wise one that is within you. We'll see you all on the next road to radical visibility. Thanks. Bye. Hold up, don't go yet. If this episode inspired you to be 100% yourself, 100% of the time, no shame or guilt needed, even just that little bit more, I would love to hear from you in the comments below. I'm here, and I know you are too, to make a positive impact in the world. So don't forget to share the love. And if you were left wanting more of this type of kick-ass content, then don't forget to click the like and subscribe button. Until next time, make sure to stay true and be you. Until then, bye.